Major League Baseball has announced 4 changes for the 2024 season, and NFHS umpires need to be familiar with these changes. Not because the changes are going to apply to our games, but because misinformed coaches and parents are going to argue when they see us not enforcing these new rules. So, in this video, we're going to briefly review the MLB rules changes and the corresponding rules for high school baseball, as well as the case plays that may come up in your games this year. Now, if you want to see how well you can do on the case plays before the review with me at the end of the video, you can find a link in the description. Hi everyone, Patrick Faerber from GHSA Baseball Umpire Development and Umpire Classroom, where we help umpires develop their knowledge and skills. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel, and if you're looking for a packaged course for new umpires, either for yourself or for your association, you can learn more about our course at umpireclassroom.com. So the first change for MLB rules this year is that the pitch clock with runners on base is being decreased from 20 seconds to 18. With no runners on base, it will remain at 15 seconds. Now, for high school rules, pace of play is a big point of emphasis this year, and you can get the full details on enforcing pace of play in this year's point of emphasis video. What I want to make sure we do cover here, and that does not get confused in your games, is that the time to deliver the pitch, or make a play, or feint a play, will remain at 20 seconds for all NFHS baseball, regardless of if runners are on base. The second MLB rules change is that mound visits are being reduced from 5 per game to 4. In NFHS baseball, it is remaining 3 defensive conferences for a regulation 7 innings. In both, the teams get 1 defensive conference in each extra inning. But what we need to be aware of is that the definition of a mound visit and defensive conference varies greatly between professional and high school baseball. In high school baseball, it only counts as a charged defensive conference if a coach or non-playing representative of the defensive team requests time for a conference. So if the catcher requests time to go to the mound and talk to his pitcher, this is not a defensive conference in NFHS baseball. The NFHS explains the difference between a player conference and a charge conference in this year's point of emphasis. A player conference is very different from a charged conference. The NFHS supports teammates encouraging each other and developing that camaraderie. That is part of the lesson one learns from playing a team sport. However, when team bonding becomes excessive and it begins to delay the game, then the umpire needs to step in and expedite the conclusion of the meeting. Here, the NFHS is saying that they're okay with these player conferences happening on occasion, but make sure to keep control over the game and the frequency of these conferences. The third rules change in the MLB is one that has been coming down the line for a long time. The MLB is expanding the runner's lane for their games. Up to this year, the runner's lane looked the same at both levels. It started at the halfway point between home and first, and was a 3-foot lane in foul territory. This year, the MLB is expanding the runner's lane to include the dirt between the foul line and the infield grass. So this year, I can guarantee you it's too late for us to see a change at lower levels of baseball. And let's talk about the realistic options youth baseball has in mirroring this change. It's very unlikely the NFHS would copy this rule because there's such a wide variety of fields. MLB across 30 fields will have a much easier time standardizing this distance and can afford to make the changes. Youth baseball will struggle with this because there have never been any rules standardizing this distance or even requirements for a dirt path from the plate to first base. So with all these different designs already out there, they likely won't standardize the rule simply going off the boundary of the infield grass and dirt. Now, you could possibly see an addition to the NFHS rules book calling for a different line to be placed in fair territory to expand the runner's lane, but again, I don't see this as very likely. Instead, the argument the NFHS will make is that the NFHS has a rule already in place to address the running lane being in foul territory and the base being in fair. The NFHS rules have the suggested rule for a double first base that has to be adopted by individual states. This rule adds a colored base into foul territory that is attached to the regular first base in fair territory, and the batter runner can then acquire first by touching the colored base instead of the white base, which keeps them in the runner's lane. Now, we won't dive into all the details of the double first base at this moment because I don't actually know a state that currently has it implemented for all high school baseball. That being said, don't be surprised if this becomes the future of high school baseball to have the double first base. And my guess is that we won't ever see a double first base adopted into the MLB at any point, partially just because they wouldn't like the way that it looks on the field. Now, we're going to keep the video moving, but if you want to fully review running lane rules, We did a great video and quiz, which you can find linked in the video description. Finally, the last change for the MLB is that a pitcher who is sent out to the mound to warm up for an inning must face at least one batter. I don't want to get into too much detail with this because this really is not an issue at the high school level, but I do want to remind you though that our NFHS rules are very different from OBR when it comes to substitutions. For example, in the NFHS baseball rules, if the listed starting pitcher on the lineup card does not pitch to the first batter, he can remain in the game at any other position. He just can't come in to pitch later in the game. So now that we've reviewed the MLB rules changes and how they relate to the NFHS rules, let's review this week's case plays. Case play number 1. The pitcher with no runners on base must pitch within A, 15 seconds, B, 18 seconds, C, 20 seconds. The correct answer here is C. With no runners on base, the pitcher must deliver a pitch within 20 seconds. Case play number 2. The pitcher with runners on base must pitch or make or attempt a play, including a legal feint, within A, 15 seconds, B, 18 seconds, C, 20 seconds. Again, the answer is C. The pitcher has either 20 seconds to deliver a pitch or make or feint a play. Case play number 3. With a runner on first base, F2 requests time and goes to the mound to speak with the pitcher. Is this a mound visit? The correct answer here is no. In high school rules, the catcher going up to the mound is not considered a conference. Case play number 4. The coach of the defensive team moves to the pitcher's mound in the 8th inning after having used 3 charged defensive conferences in the first 7 innings. Does he have to pull his pitcher? The correct answer here is no. He's used his 3 charged defensive conferences in regulation, but since this is the 8th inning, which would be an extra inning in high school baseball, he gets 1 defensive conference without making a pull for every extra inning. So in this inning, this being his first conference, he does not have to make a change. Case play number 5. The coach of the defensive team has used 1 charged conference in the first 7 innings. How many charged conferences does he have in the 8th inning where he does not have to pull his pitcher? The correct answer here is 1. Any leftover defensive conferences from the regulation innings do not carry over into extra innings. And for each extra inning, he can only use 1 defensive conference in that extra inning where he doesn't have to pull his pitcher. Case play number 6. With R3 on third base and 1 out, B2 hits a fair ground ball to F3, who fields the ball beyond first base. He throws to F2, attempting to retire R3. The throw hits B2, who is running in fair territory and does not intentionally interfere with the ball. Is this A, this is interference, B2 is out, and R3 is returned to third base? B, this is interference, B2 is out, and R3 is out? Or C, this is not interference? The correct answer here is C. Running lane interference only applies on throws being made to first base. Since this throw is going from first to the plate, the running lane does not apply. Case play number 7. With R3 on third base, B2 bunts a ball that is fielded by F2. F2 attempts to throw to F3, but because B2 is outside of the runner's lane and in the way, F2 tries to throw over B2's head. The throw goes 10 feet over the head of F3. Is this A, this is interference, B2 is out, and R3 is returned to third base? B, this is interference, B2 is out, and R3 is out? Or C, this is not interference? The correct answer here is A. Now there's a big difference between the rule at the high school level and the professional level that you need to be aware of. At the professional level, running lane interference only applies if the runner being out of the runner's lane impacts the first baseman's ability to field a thrown ball. So in this example, with the ball being thrown 10 feet over the first baseman's head, that wouldn't make any difference whether or not the first baseman can field it, and thus at the MLB level, this would not constitute runner's lane interference. However, at the high school level, if the runner being out of the runner's lane impacts the first baseman's ability to field the thrown ball, or affects the catcher's ability to make this throw to first, for example, causing him to throw it 10 feet over the first baseman's head, in that scenario, that is interference. And so that's the big difference between the high school and the professional level. At the high school level, it's interference if it impacts the throw or the first baseman's ability to field the throw. And at the professional level, it only matters if it affects the first baseman's ability to field the throw. Case play number 8. B1 bunts a ball in front of home plate. F2 fields the ball and throws it to F3. The thrown ball hits B1, who is running in fair territory 30 feet from home plate. Is this A, this is runner's lane interference, or B, this is legal? The correct answer here is B. The runner's lane only applies on the last half distance towards first. Since this is only 30 feet from the plate, we haven't gotten to the 45-foot mark, and the runner's lane does not apply. Case play number 9. B1 bunts a ball in front of home plate. F2 fields the ball and throws it to F3. The thrown ball hits B1, who is within 20 feet of first base, with 1 foot in fair territory and 1 foot in foul territory. Is this A, this is runner's lane interference, or B, this is legal? The correct answer here is A. This is runner's lane interference because if 1 foot for the runner is out of the runner's lane, then they're violating the runner's lane rule. Case play number 10. At the pregame conference, the coach of the home team is explaining the ground rules. He says that since they play on a turf field that has a grass infield, the runner's lane will be widened to include the dirt between the foul line and the infield grass. Is this A, this is legal since it is clearly visible? B, this is legal, but it must be marked with chalk? Or C, this is illegal? The correct answer here is C. Any ground rules ever given by a coach cannot violate the rules already in the rules book. The rules book is already very clear about what the runner's lane is for high school baseball, so a coach would not be able to make this change at the plate meeting. So there you have it, our review of the 2024 MLB rules changes and how they relate to NFHS baseball. If you found this video helpful, be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out our website at umpireclassroom.com. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the field.